Hello, welcome back to the A Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Ameer and Mauro. Joining me today will be Mauro Cesario.
Yo, what's up?
It's just me and you, Mauro. Brant would rather go to Florida. He can't bring his mic because he can't be bothered to, join in. But how you doing, Mauro?
I'm doing good. It's good to be back. It's been a while.
I know. It's been a while. Me and Brant recorded like 2 weeks ago, but he forgot to release the episode. We were gonna maybe release it just for context later, but we'll see. But we're in the thick of it. The playoffs, it's probably the best Eastern and Western Conference semifinals we've had in years in the NBA, and then the NHL playoffs are in full swing. Like it's the best time of the year for me at least.
I mean, yeah, can't complain. It's been very much the tale, or I guess the big year of the underdog in the NHL. That's for sure. I mean,
yeah. And let's start off with the NBA first. But we've been waiting all year for, in the East we knew that we had these top four teams, and we were just waiting for them to clash, and we've gotten them. And even in the West also, we've had three competitive series, and then I'd say the Bucks Celtics has been the one dud.
Yeah.
So which series do you want to start off with first? Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter to me either. I mean,
all right,
we can go with the home team.
Yeah,
I mean, it makes it easier for me.
Yeah, exactly. So the Raptors last night blew out the Sixers. At one point, they were up by 40 points in the fourth quarter. The game was really wrapped up late in the mid-third quarter after the Sixers made a run to cut it to 12 or 13, and then the Raptors come right back. And, it was a statement game. I think it's 80% of the time the team that wins Game 5 wins the series. So the odds are definitely in their favor. And, you have 2 games to win one game. Yeah. And, I like their odds right now. I think most have it at like 80% to win the series. So I'm feeling pretty confident. What say you, Mauro?
Yesterday's game was very telling for me because it was the first time that we actually saw everybody perform. Like we were second quarter was probably the third quarter. I don't even remember. And I looked at the score and I go to the stat line. Lowry had double figures. Green had double figures. Siakam had double figures, and so did Kawhi. And I thought, wow, we finally got everybody in. And if it continues like this, it'll be a lot better going into Milwaukee should they go out of this series on top.
Absolutely. Like, I remember at halftime, I was playing like a guessing game with my parents. I'm like, oh, who leads the Raptors in scoring right now? And they said every other player except for Pascal and Lowry, who were tied with, I think, 11 points at halftime. But I think you're bang on there with the Raptors haven't played their A game all series except for Kawhi. But the complementary players around him haven't stepped up at all. And then you got contributions from everyone throughout your lineup. I mean, Serge Ibaka gets cut in the first quarter by an elbow from Kawhi Leonard. And he starts dripping on the court, but then he comes back and still has a contribution also. You had Danny Green, who hit, I think, 5 threes or something. He was huge for the Raptors. And I think he's really the X factor for this team because he's going to provide defense. But you need those timely threes that he can provide because they're just momentum killers. Like, I remember there's a time in the second or third when JJ Redick has an open three for him, and he's such a killer, but he missed it, and then the Raptors come down and Danny Green hits a 3. Like, it's such a momentum killer that, like, this next game in Philly is going to be tough, but I think let's talk about the Joel Embiid storyline because I think that is insane. The fact that it's a different thing every other night. It's his knee one night. It's his lungs the next night. It's his stomach the next night. Like, it just doesn't stop with, like, I understand the excuses and stuff, and he's a warrior for trying to go out there and play, but he's played one good game in the 5 games that they've played. Game 3 was the only good game that he played. And if you're going to be that bad, why even play?
He can, when healthy, he can be an X factor. It's just a matter of whether or not, like, I don't know, is it just stubbornness?
from the like
from
so
his
he
from his
wasn't
standpoint, is it just I know
Or
I
it's
feel
from
I
the
can
coach,
go out
like-
there and I can be the X factor, I can be the difference maker, let me play, or do they have no
It's
choice
not even that he's-
and just say
it's
we
not
need
even
this
that he's
guy?
the difference maker. It's not even that he's the difference maker. He is the team. Like
Mhm.
there's even yesterday there was a move that he pulled where he just got to the rim at will,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, wow, this guy's insane. But it's the lackadaisicalness where he's just throwing balls away. Like there was like he had 8 turnovers yesterday. Like that's insane. But this quick turnaround you'd think would hurt the Raptors, but this hurts the Sixers way more because even though the Raptors are an older team, they have the Sixers and Embiid, who he only has less than 48 hours to recover and go play another game. Like that's an absolute killer for him to have to. They played him up until the fourth quarter yesterday. Like
Damn,
you knew that game was out of reach at the like midway through the third. Why even put him back out there?
Yeah.
And then you had the whole he's looking at a stat sheet on the bench and all that. Like
13-6-1.
That's the,
not too pretty.
yeah. No, and he was in. You have Ben Simmons, who I mean, I think that's the bigger storyline to
Yeah.
where the Sixers. I think like Brett Brown, their head coach, is on the hot seat, and I think for rightfully so because he isn't putting Ben Simmons in situations where he can play to his best
He
capabilities.
only got 25 minutes last night, and I know he was in early foul trouble because I remember seeing him and Ennis at 2 early on, but I mean,
Yeah.
still at 25 minutes, that's kind of low for a guy like him.
The thing is, like, when he got into foul trouble, I turned to my dad and I'm like, is that even a good thing? Because when he's out there, he's ineffective. Like, he can get to the rim at will, but they're not pushing the ball to get to the rim. Like, in transition, the Raptors, there's stats where the Raptors have been the far more aggressive team in transition. And you would think that it's the exact opposite thing, that Philly would want to get out in transition. And yet, they just aren't. I don't know why. There's no logical reason for Philly to not push the pace and get Simmons involved in the transition game. And I think his ineffectiveness is the greater concern than even Embiid, because Embiid, even when he's out there, he's such a deterrent. Like you saw the shots that he blocked in game 4 on Ibaka, and you saw like he can still score, but the amount of attention that he grabs, Simmons is just out there, and you just don't need to defend him at all.
Well, that's the thing. If you take him out of the game, well, I mean, Jimmy Butler, I don't remember which game it was.
Jimmy Butler's the only Sixer that's been good
consistently.
every single
Yeah,
game.
like I don't remember which game it was. I think it was
game 4 when he hit the ridiculous 3.
Yeah, and there was just one game that he completely took over. Like he was unstoppable.
Yep. Oh, game 2.
It was game 2.
Toronto. Yeah.
And he was just making every shot, and the ball was going to him every single time, and the Raptors had no answer for him. So I don't know if that was maybe the game plan moving forward. Like, are they shifting the focus away from Ben Simmons and moving it more to a guy like Butler, who, I mean, he's shown he can do it.
I think and the funny thing is, like, coming into these playoffs, the notion was that if the rankings of the guys that the Sixers were going to keep was going to be Simmons, Embiid, and Tobias Harris, and that Butler was on his way out because he wasn't fitting into the team, and yet he's the only one that's been producing. And like Tobias Harris hasn't been as good as he's been touted for. I mean, he was a borderline all-star. He didn't make it, but I mean, there's no excuse for why he's not performing. Also, JJ Redick's he's always gonna be a sick shooter and kill you in transition, but I think there's problems with the Sixers organization moving forward from the standpoint of who do you keep, who do you build around, and like they gave up 3 first-round picks basically for Tobias Harris this offseason, or at the trade deadline, and I can't pay him max money after seeing what he's done so far.
That's the thing. You've got these younger players. You had Embiid, you had Simmons, you had Fultz, and now you're bringing in these older-ish guys. They're not, past their prime or anything, but they're league veterans like Butler, like Harris, and it's like, well,
Yeah.
what's your identity now? I thought it was trust the process, and now you've kind of gelled in these other guys.
You sped up the process, yeah.
And now,
And guys that like Tobias Harris is a borderline-ish kind of guy.
yeah,
Jimmy Butler is an all-star,
Exactly.
and like without a doubt, but he's not like in the age. He's not in the age range of these guys, right? Like his contract's gonna suck. The next one that he gets because he's already in his 30s and he'll age out of it. Tobias Harris only 25, but still like you tried to speed up the process too fast, and where Simmons and Embiid don't necessarily work with each other.
yeah,
Because I mean, Simmons right now is basically a center because he can't shoot from the outside.
basically.
If he's just standing on the perimeter in the corner, there's no reason to defend him because he's not coming downhill. I think that's what the Sixers have to do, is to work them downhill. Enough about the Sixers though, Jesus. But like it's crazy though. Like everyone can see these problems that are going on with them. From the Raptors standpoint, I feel confident.
Yeah.
Like I think it's 50-50 whether or not they win the next game, but I feel confident that they won't lose 2 in a row, especially with Embiid's health being in question.
Well, I mean, they've showed that they can win games when Kawhi is the only guy playing. So, I mean, God forbid nobody wants to show up in game 6 or 7. You know, that's where I'd kind of get scared. But as long as the guys who need to contribute, the guys a part of the starting 5, put in their fair share. Kyle makes his shots. Siakam's, fully healthy. Nothing's bothering him, and he's playing lights out like he has been for the rest of these playoffs. And Danny Green is making those open threes when Kawhi is looking to him. I mean, he's going to be, I think, one of the main guys that they need down the stretch to just, keep hitting his shots when
timely buckets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like you said before, it's a big momentum killer, especially when he comes down and he just pops one, and it's like, well, fuck, there goes
transition
the run.
3. Yeah, it's the same. Him and JJ Redick have the same kind of ability to just kill momentums with the 3. And one thing I want to credit Nick Nurse is like playing the 2 bigs together, Ibaka and Gasol, because you put Gasol or Ibaka on Embiid, and then you allow the other one to play on Simmons to where you don't need to guard him in the perimeter, and the other one can just help over on the other side when Embiid gets deep inside the post, to where it's a contested shot every time. I think it's been a fabulous move for them. Let's move on to another.
Before we go to another series, I think we should discuss some breaking news that happened last night in our TNT. What was it? The halftime report.
It was the halftime show of Portland Denver. I was watching the games on TNT, and pregame for the Rap Sixers, Charles Barkley mentions he wants to get back to the hockey game. He's talking about Dallas, St. Louis, obviously. And then halftime of the Raptors game, he's like, can we hurry this up? Like, I want to get back to the hockey game. And then post game, he mentions it also. And then halftime of Denver Portland, he's like, can we hurry up because the second overtime's about to start in Dallas, St. Louis. And then so they go to break, and during the segment before when he's talking about it, I tweeted out how many times that Charles Barkley's been mentioning this and his love for hockey. He really is an honorary Canadian, so I tweet that out. And then so they come back and they show the Raptors highlights, and it wasn't like a big highlight pack because it was only like 10-15 seconds, and they show the score. And then they just come back, and I see my face on the screen, and I'm like, what? And then I see my name, and I'm like, huh? What's going on? And then I see my tweet, and then Ernie just starts saying it, and I'm like, holy shit, what is going on? So then I'm freaking out. I go upstairs. My dad left watching the Portland game, and I'm like, holy shit, Dad, I'm on TV right now. He's like, what? Like his lights are off. Him and my mom are asleep. He's got his like sleep apnea mask on. And then he's like, wait, what? He's like, what? So he comes downstairs. He's like, are you kidding me? What? Like it was one of the most like surreal moments. So then I go to record it. My phone dies. I'm like, oh great. So then I have to leave it on that, and it's just paused there for like the next like half an hour while it's charging to turn back on. Meanwhile, St. Louis goes and Pat Maroon scores, so I missed that. But I mean, it was like a surreal moment. The fact that like it's on one of your favorite TV shows and like the most famous halftime show like ever, and it was a pretty cool moment.
Just your average feel good story of the night, you know.
Yeah, not a big deal.
Not a big deal at all.
Not a big deal. So let's go on to Milwaukee. Let's go. Which series? Yeah, sure. Milwaukee.
We'll finish we'll finish the East.
Yeah. So that series, it seems all but wrapped up after the Bucks lose Game 1 in Milwaukee. Ever since, it's been all Bucks. Like Boston's almost like self-combusting, and then you see Kyrie. He left the court early last game. Damn. And then now like they put out the odds of where Kyrie's going next season. And it's most likely that he's going to the Nets and then the Knicks. So that was surprising to me because you would think that he would go to the Knicks because the Knicks don't have a point guard. Mm-hmm. The Nets have D'Angelo Russell. So that was interesting to me, the fact that he could do that. I think that's pretty weird, right?
I mean, this was a team I thought would honestly be first by the end of the regular season. So I don't know. I guess it's just another one of those organizational problems. Like, I don't know what to chalk it up as. Like, this is a really good team. They made it to the finals last year, did they not?
The Eastern Conference Finals? Yeah.
Were they not in the final last year, or was that...
No, it was Cleveland again, still.
Okay. Never mind that.
It was Cleveland, Boston, and then Boston lost in Game 7 in Boston.
Well, shit. I mean, regardless, they're a year removed from... one game from the final. All these guys returned. Exactly, yeah. They have Gordon Hayward this time around. And they have Kyrie this time, which they didn't have last year. I don't know. Maybe it's just a gelling problem. That's what I'm thinking. Like, that the fact that Boston might be better because Kyrie's such an isolation-heavy player that him on that team it's not the greatest. It's not the greatest way to bring out his talents because he goes one-on-one and he stops the ball movement. I mean, Gordon Hayward having 2 points in 27 minutes doesn't help either, and the fact that he was coming back and he was not all the way back like to where he was like third team all NBA, mm-hmm. but he was playing a lot better compared to earlier on this season when he started playing back. Mm-hmm. I think it's just shocking to see. Milwaukee looks like a juggernaut. I think it's like 60-40 though, that if going into the Raptors, if the Raptors move on, obviously. Damn. Because one thing I actually like if the Raptors face Milwaukee is the fact that the first 2 games are in Milwaukee and that the Raptors, if they had to play the first 2 games at home, I always think that they're going to lose one of them. Well, it's good that if they split, it's on the road. It's not at home, right? So you don't feel as worried. Which is exactly, mm-hmm. Yeah. To where I think it was going to be a split either way. But in this case, you don't go into Milwaukee 1-1 or. Mm-hmm. But I mean, they haven't had an answer for Giannis. I mean, 39 points game 5, like, or 4, whatever it was. And he's getting to the foul line like crazy. He's leading the league, I think, in the postseason with how many shots he's taking at the free throw line. It's nuts. 22. And it is kind of like in game. It's 4. Kind of like Shaq in a way, to where he gets fouled on basically every play just because of how big he is. But like at a point, you can't call all of these fouls. Come on. Yeah. It's the same thing with Embiid. Like, I'm sure he's getting hit on every play, but. So he's going up against Kawhi 1-on-1, correct? I don't think so. I think they'll put Pascal on him. Damn. And then you put Kawhi on Middleton or something. That's what I think right now. I think but they'll switch off guys to where sometimes maybe even Danny will defend him, which won't be great. But I think Ibaka could defend him also off the bench. It'll be interesting to see if they go back to the 2 big men, if Fred VanVleet could play more in a series like that. But I don't want to count my chickens before they're hatched. But we don't really have much to say about the Boston-Milwaukee series. Like, that one's a wrap, basically. It's basically done unless we see something from the Celtics we haven't seen before, which I don't think is expected.
No, like they showed could they win tonight? Absolutely, but I don't see Milwaukee losing 3 games in a row. I just don't. With how well they've played this entire year.
Basically.
Quickly, Denver, Portland. It's been a coming out party for Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. Like Jamal Murray, I think it was game 4 in Portland when he hit that ridiculous behind the backboard shot. I don't know if you saw it.
I don't think I did.
But
no.
No, but he's playing like there was a time down the stretch where he had to make, I think, 6 straight free throws, and he made them all. And Lillard was missing free throws, and like the fact that Jamal Murray's holding his own against Damian Lillard is absolutely, it's shocking. But like, if you're a Denver fan, that team could be really good for the next coming years. The fact that you have a core of Jokic and Jamal Murray, along with like Gary Harris and other guys like that.
Yeah.
So that series, I think Denver's going to win that also. Not really much more to add on that other than shout out to Jamal Murray. You know,
I mean,
Kitchener
he's putting Canada on the map. Kitchener.
Yeah. Like, if I had told you that Jamal Murray was going to be better than Andrew Wiggins, like, I don't think that many people
They weren't
would
the
have
same
believed it at
draft
the
year, were
time.
they? Because that would look really bad.
Murray was, I think, the next year, or maybe even the year after. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
it was the year with Jaylen Brown. I want to say 2016, the same year as Ben Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
16 NBA draft. But Mauro, I think in the most fascinating maybe round 2 matchup outside of Philly, Toronto has been the Rockets Warriors, to where after the first 2 games, everyone thought that it was going to be
Game over.
Yep. And the fact that, you know,
the Beards held his own, man.
Yeah.
Were his numbers not the exact
same
as Durant's going into one of the games?
I mean, look, he scores at will, but I think that this series is, whoever moves on, this series is going to take a lot out of each team. Like, I think that this one probably does go 7. I don't think that Houston will lose twice. Like, I don't know. I just think that both teams are really goddamn good, and this is almost maybe like this is the NBA Finals matchup, kind of, in a way, to where if you're thinking of teams that'll give the Warriors as hard of a matchup, will it be this Houston team or whatever team comes out of the East? Like, yeah. I think they're pretty equivalent. Like, they're equivalent in terms of how talented they are.
And even so, like, this is a 4 seed Rockets. Like, this isn't even a 1-2. Like,
but it's a 4 seed.
Yeah,
but
like,
I think on the last day of the regular season, so the Rockets were the 2 seed, and then they lost, and then so then they moved down to the 4 seed.
Tell that
yeah,
the 4 of these teams in the West, they're at least 2, 3, 4. Like, they're really close.
Yeah, in terms of record, yep.
And it shows, right? Like, these 2 series have been a lot closer, I think, than the East ones. I mean, sure, the Raptors gave up 2, but I mean, the 30 whatever points it was yesterday shows how big of a gap there is when the Raps are on their game, right?
Yeah, exactly. And are the Warriors on their A game? No, I don't think so, because I think that it's one game where Durant's on and the other game where Steph's on and then Clay's not on, and then so I think it's kind of like a juggling. Yeah, it's a juggling case where like they just it's similar with the Raptors where they're not clicking on all cylinders. Like, everyone's not going all at once. To where, look, if they all start clicking, then obviously it's a wrap that they're gonna win. I also think it's a possibility that Golden State just got like a little bored to where they know that they're better, but they slack off. To, like, if you remember the Cleveland series in 2015 against the Raptors, when the Raptors won games 3 and 4 in Toronto.
Yep.
Do you remember that? To where Cleveland just didn't care, and then even though both games were close, they did, and then they win games 5 and 6 and end the series. It could be the exact same case here, to where Golden State was just disinterested, and then this really kicks them into gear and pushes them on a final run.
Well, they're doing this without DeMarcus Cousins. I just learned that 2 seconds ago.
You didn't know that? Yeah,
I did not
was
know
out with
that.
a
Quadricep.
quad injury. Yeah.
Yep.
So, but he's apparently coming back. So, like, I think this is the time to get the Warriors. Even though, like, DeMarcus Cousins, I don't know if he makes the biggest difference on the Warriors because of just the sheer amount of talent they have, and there's only one ball for the 5 players that they could have. But I think still having him out there, he's such a presence to where you know how good of a player he is when he, like, arguably the best center in the league when he's healthy.
Yeah.
I would take Embiid, but regardless, like a top 3 center. And the fact that, you know, he's not available, I think this is the time when you pounce. Is it possible, like, if you were going to give a percentage chance to the Rockets win the series, what would you say? Like, I would say like 15.
That they win the series? You're going to...
Yeah.
15?
Yeah. 15%.
I'm close. I'm
like
closer
like
to 40. Like, I'm at like 35.
Nah, I think that's way... Like, I was going to say like a number higher, but then I'm like...
I say
I
like
don't see a way
65,
that
35.
happens.
I don't know. Like, you could tell the Warriors are clearly the favorite, but...
Yeah.
I mean, hey, anything can happen. It's a best of 3.
Yep. It is, but...
The Warriors are
when
the
the
Warriors,
chips are when
right?
the chips are down, I trust KD and Steph more than just James Harden. Because, like, outside of James Harden, who do you trust to score in the Rockets? No one.
PJ Tucker.
PJ Tucker is an absolute monster. Like, he's arguably been their second best player in the playoff, just from the amount of hustle that he provides for them. But I mean, Chris Paul and Kyle Lowry are basically the same player at this point. 2 hustle guys that they run their team, but they're not scoring at the rate that they need to be compared to, you know, years ago. But let's go to your bread and butter here, Mauro. Let's talk about the NHL playoffs.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So, yesterday, we're going to go right into what happened yesterday, right? Or are we going...
All right.
How far back are we going here?
No.
So,
You can go.
Blues
No,
win
go.
Game 7 last night.
Yes, sir.
It was a biggie. I mean,
Jordan Winnington.
You got that right.
Yeah.
I think yesterday's game broke the record for amount of Game 7 overtimes. So, I mean, regardless, I saw the stat. I can't confirm what exactly it was, but it's a record-setting number of Game 7s we've had. And, I mean, double overtime. The hometown guy, Pat Maroon, scores it. I mean, the story doesn't get any better than that.
And then you get the video of his kid crying and stuff. And then his mom was there, and she was holding some prayer card or something. Like, it was just a really cool moment.
I mean,
you know, after Pat Maroon got shit on all his season, where anyone could have him. In Edmonton, they couldn't wait to get rid of him. And then this year, the Blues weren't happy with him. And then now he really is one of those playoff type of guys to where he's a grit guy. And the dirty goals are often what makes the difference in most games in the playoffs.
I mean, they deserved to win. The shots were significantly in their favor. I saw going into it last night, into double overtime, it was 52, I think. The final tally was 54 shots to 30. I mean, all credit to Ben Bishop, because they did not have any chance of winning this series without having him on his A game. And I know that he got injured back in Game 6 with the thing where he had to leave the game and Hudobin came in. But I mean, regardless, like, I think it's fair to say that he's been the best goalie this entire playoffs, and that he deserves some credit, if not all the credit, for why they've got this far. They were 1 goal away from a conference finals appearance. I mean, not taking anything away from the Blues, but...
And who would have thought that, right?
Exactly.
Like, coming into, like, when was it when the owner was just that absolutely ripped Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin?
Exactly.
Right. And, you know, Ben Bishop, I was kind of surprised when they gave Ben Bishop that contract, even like when Tampa had traded him to the Kings.
Yeah. And it was like a third-round pick at the time, too.
Yeah, right? Like, and this is Ben Bishop, and he was quick hurt then. Like, I know Bishop didn't have the greatest Was he starting for them in the playoffs? Because they made the playoffs that year, right?
That was the year. Kings? Oh, the King. I think the Kings made the playoffs that year.
But was he their starting goalie even?
I think he started for them, but they didn't go far.
No, it was the year. Was the year Vegas? No, because that's last year. Yeah, no,
I think they got bounced in the first round.
Anaheim, maybe? I can't remember.
I think it was either Anaheim or the Sharks.
One or the other, but regardless, like, and then he plays like a Vezina-like season this year. He absolutely keeps them in. And you look at that Dallas team, outside of their first line, like Rope Hintz, holy shit, what a fucking player. And he was possibly the player going back if they had done an Erik Karlsson trade with the Sens. So blessing in disguise a little, the fact that he's still on your team. And that team has like, they don't have the in-between type of players. They have the frontline players, the Radulov, Sagan,
It's
Ben,
a very top-heavy team, yeah.
Klingberg, like, and Heiskanen, and then
it kind of drops.
They have some mid-level players, the Lindells, Hintz now, like,
yeah,
Radek Fox is okay, like,
but you could tell it drops, right?
Yeah. Significant
drop.
They're paying Martin Hansel like $4 million.
Yeah, I looked him up yesterday. Actually, I'm like, Martin Hansel's on this roster. Yeah. He's not playing. Yeah, this is funny.
No. Yeah, I think they signed until like a 3-year deal at $4 million. I can't remember. It was 2 off seasons ago. But like,
yeah,
they like commend them for going as far as they did. A little lucky in a way because they don't have to give up their first round pick to.
The Rangers for Zuccarello?
The Rangers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there was a way where they could give up 2 first-round picks for Zuccarello, which is nuts. They might give up the first-rounder regardless and re-sign Zuccarello. I don't think it's a bad thing.
I don't think it's a bad move for them.
No, like a late first-rounder, whatever. The mid-20s, nah. But St. Louis, what a team! Like,
this was a team that was considering blowing it up mid-season.
Yeah, trading Pietrangelo for Nylander. Remember?
Imagine if that was happened. A thing. I don't know. I mean,
see, but I don't like that deal for the Leafs. From the standpoint of this, it's very Philadelphia-like what the Sixers did, to where you're speeding up the window.
I guess.
You could argue that Tavares sped up the window, but
it did. But
so there's some parallels.
I mean, staying on the Blues, I mean, sure, you got a guy like Pietrangelo in the back. They're deep all around. I mean, they got 4 solid lines, and even the back end too. Like Carl Gunnarsson's playing. They got former Leafs galore, man. Yeah. Steen, Gunnarsson.
Steen. Yeah.
I mean,
Bozak.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just credit to Craig Berube, the resilience that this team has shown to bounce back mid-season, put a big stretch together that they did towards the tail end, and they came into the season hot. They got the hottest goalie in the NHL, and it shows.
And the thing is, like, look at their team, and among their team, who would you really want on your team outside of Ryan O'Reilly? Like, Tarasenko's a big price tag for a player that doesn't really produce to where he should. But, like, outside of that, it's not a lot of guys.
Point, maybe Shen.
Maybe, yeah, like maybe, 5, 6. Yeah.
But, I mean, a lot of it's just, it's kind of like the Golden Knights, where it's just a bunch of
I was going to say that,
guys that were, you're playing first line for first line, and you're getting matched up against a guy like Ryan O'Reilly. Second line, you got a guy like Shen. Third line, you got Bozak. Fourth line, I don't even know who's centering that line. But, I mean, still, they're getting scoring all around. Guys like Perron, guys like Schwartz. Schwartz had the hat trick a couple games ago. I mean, they're getting a well-balanced attack going, and when you have that going in the playoffs, it's really hard to beat, right? Like,
oh, absolutely. I'm just checking, like, who is on their team. Sammy Blais, what the hell? I saw that goal that he sniped to force the game. Was it in Game 6 or Game 5? I think it was game. Regardless, I had no idea who he was until he scored that goal. But it's crazy how there's just it's not name brand guys that are performing at this level. Credit, Petrangelo, Parayko on the back end.
Yeah.
Their decor isn't bad. Like, they have 3 guys in their decor that I like. Petrangelo, Parayko, and Vince Dunn. Then the others, Joel Edmondson, Jay Bouwmeester, and Carl Gunnarsson. Like, they aren't your typical guys.
But they're big guys.
Big guys, yeah. Parayko's 6'6". Bouwmeester's big, right? Like, Vince Dunn's the smallest guy on that decor.
He's only 22. Damn.
Yeah, and he's an offensive guy.
Yeah.
So, what's the other West series?
That's the one we got tonight. We'll know what the fate will be of either the Sharks or the Avalanche.
It's credit to the Avs for pushing it to Game 7. I saw the Landeskog goal that he scored to force the Game 7. I think we're both in the same camp where we want the Sharks to win, but we won't really comment too much on it because by the time we post this, it's out of the news, and you know who won.
I mean, I'll just say that the one thing I've been impressed with has been Cale Makar. Like, he came into this plails and he's really made a name for himself.
Absolutely, like to start the overtime, him and Samuel Girard were the first pairing D out there. I was like, this guy was playing college hockey like a couple weeks ago, and the fact that he's out there playing these big time minutes, that's nuts. It's absolutely insane. That's another team where they have a really bright future. To where I'm a little thankfully they're in the West. Because they have that 4th overall pick. Thank you,
Joe
Ottawa.
Sakic. He's laughing somewhere. If they make it out of this game, I don't know. I got nothing because you're going to be within the top 4 of the teams left in the league, and you're going to be in the top 4 of the picks that are at the other end of the draft. So
because honestly, that team outside of their first line is garbage. Like, Listen to these guys on their second line. Matt Nieto, Carl Soderberg, JT Compher. Third line, Tyson Jost, Alexander Kerfoot, Colin Wilson. Fourth line, Derek Brassard, Gabriel Bork, and Patrick Nemeth.
I thought
defense,
Patrick Nemeth
Eric
was
Johnson.
a defenseman too. I'm pretty sure he is.
They have him at left wing.
So they probably play 11 forwards.
Maybe, yeah. Eric Johnson, Ian Cole. I would not want Ian Cole on my first pairing.
I would not on my first pairing, but I want a guy like Ian Cole in the playoffs.
True. Tyson Barrie, Nikita Zadorov. That Barrie is sick.
Yeah.
And then Gerard Makar.
That's well balanced defense, if you ask me.
Yeah.
You got your credit
between
to
offensive guys and defensive guys. Yeah.
Credit to the offensive guys because they're gonna carry the boatload of minutes and they're gonna be the guys that help you kickstart the offense.
Yeah.
But like, I've seen my fair
Johnson
share.
and Cole is very defensive.
Like I've seen my fair share of Ian Cole in the playoffs. The guy blocks a ton of shots. Like penalty kill, he's there. Last couple minutes of the game, and you need the lane to get clogged. You need a stick tied up. It's him. Like, so just my little bit on Ian Cole. So yeah, like credit to him. I mean, 6 strong defensemen, and I mean, sure, the Sharks too. They've got their fair share of guys. If we want to transition to them and speak to what that team's got going, I mean, it'd be a nice story to see them in the final.
Oh, I think yeah, we're both there to where we want the Sharks to advance just for the, Joe Thornton and the cup. Like, could it be better? Like, you have 2 guys in the last 2 years that have been starving for a cup, in Ovi and Joe Thornton, and they could win it. That'd be awesome. And then for Sens fan to see Erik Karlsson lift the cup, that'd be pretty sweet. To see like
this one's for you, Eugene.
Yeah. But I think if Thing's not playing tonight, is he?
Who's that?
Pavelski.
I don't know what the latest is on him, but I know he's been injured with the head injury, face injury, whatever it's been.
Because, like, he was at the game. So
Unavailable. Game time call.
Yeah.
Nothing's been updated.
They asked his wife. Denver Post asked his wife. She said, I'm 75% sure he will play. That's what his wife said, according to the Denver Post.
As per the score, the San Jose Sharks have been tight-lipped about his availability.
I think if he comes back, I feel pretty confident about San Jose, but who knows? We'll talk about the Sharks at a later date because like we don't know. The Bruins advance, beating the Columbus Blue Jackets in Game 6 in Colorado, and we're pissed because Charlie McAvoy laid a hit late in the second on Josh Anderson.
Probably
to where it should have been
guy on Columbus. I could be wrong.
Yep. Oh,
by far the biggest guy on Columbus.
Dubinsky.
Maybe Dubinsky. Fair.
Like in terms of tough guys.
No, but even from size, Dubinsky. Like I've met him, he's actually fucking huge.
Yeah. And so he gets hit in the head, and they call a 2-minute minor. It was a blatant hit to the head
for such a small defenseman like McAvoy to go up, and you see he's leaving his feet to only make contact with his head, B against the guy who's humongous compared to him in size, relatively speaking,
and you see him go down.
And you see the guy go down. Are there not red lights for this play? Like, come on.
No, I think that they were scared ever since the Joe Pavelski hit from Cody Eakin that they just don't want to, be the scapegoat of like a series. And yet you were the absolute scapegoat in the same scenario because you missed calling the call.
It should be 5 in a game.
It should have been 5 minutes. Yeah. And no one could tell me that, Columbus had that penalty and then they got another penalty in the third, and they could have. A 5-minute major is totally different than
it's relentless attack for 5 minutes straight.
It's continuous.
We've seen what happens when a team can get a 5-minute penalty, and momentum's the big thing.
Case in point, San Jose. Yeah,
it's monumental, especially with your backs against the wall. You're up against it. You've got everything to play for. Make the right call. Like, I understand the bias comes into play here heavily with us because we're salty Leaf fans, as everybody would say, and we hate to see the Leafs do well.
Right.
But
you're damn right we are.
We've seen so many times the Bruins get away with so many things.
With murder.
Whether it's the after the whistle cross check or the shove in the back or whatever dirty play it's been, or hockey play, as they'll call it and defend themselves with. It's been relentless. It's been time after time, and to be honest, I'm sick and tired of it. And the league has not held them accountable one bit, and I'm pissed off.
Like, this goes back to even the Marchand punch in the head. He shouldn't have been suspended on it, but there's no reason why he shouldn't have been fined.
Hit him where it hurts.
Like, you're setting precedents that
you're not gonna not do anything about that.
No, but you can't just say that there's no discipline at all. You can't just let a guy punch him in the head. I can't go down the street and punch someone in the head.
By allowing that to happen unscathed, you're enabling it. You're saying, Brad, you can go ahead and do that next time. Because as long as the refs don't catch it, we're not going to say anything about it too. We're turning a blind eye. And that's a joke.
It is a joke. And, our buddy Lucas tweets out how the Bruins are really going to have to let me pull it up.
At what point does it, as you pull up this tweet or whatever it was, at what point will it have to come to? Does there need to be a guy unconscious on the ice in order for the league to get this message that, I understand it's a rough and rugged style of hockey that they're playing, but, at what point are you as the league going to set the boundaries and, mark the line and saying, hey, enough is enough, scale it back a bit.
So So Lucas tweets out, I wonder when the NHL will finally make the Boston Bruins pay for their countless cheap shots. Marchand, Chara, McAvoy, DeBrusque. The amount of dirty plays by these players this playoffs alone is astounding. And then I reply, hold the Bruins accountable? The NHL could never, with like a Trump gif of him being like derping out. I'm like, they just won't. They won't. The Boston Bruins can get away with whatever. And I say this as a defender of Nazem Kadri. And yes, am I completely biased? Absolutely. But guess what? I don't care. Like, you can't tell me that you can't tell me that the Boston Bruins get favorable calls in terms of the league. You can't tell me that. Because, Charlie McAvoy could have got suspended for 2 games.
He could have.
He absolutely could have. He only gets 1. Because I would have been fine with 1 if he got thrown out for the game.
5 in a game,
like Elliot Friedman,
to 2.
Yeah.
But he got a 2-minute penalty and he stayed in the game.
But he didn't.
Which is wrong in my opinion.
Exactly. That was huge. Like the fact that he stayed in the game because he's their best defenseman and he got to contribute on the way to a win. And we saw in game 5 how much of a player he is. You see him blocking shots and shit. Like everyone knows how good he is. And the fact that you allowed him to be back out there. Elliot Friedman talked about it, how when they didn't throw him out of the game, basically the NHL now has to suspend him a game. If they had suspended him a game, if they had thrown him out of the game, maybe you could then argue, oh, well, it's 1 game anyways. You don't throw him out. But now they were basically forced to. And it's 1 game to where it's the Eastern Conference Finals. Fine, whatever. But you got to punish them in the moment.
And that's the thing. I'm sure you guys talked about the whole knee-on-knee hit with the whole skirmish that happened, and it led to the Kadri cross-check. And I think it speaks to the same point because you allow things to go unscathed the first time, like you said, and it just enables it and it builds up. To where
Kadri feels like he has to
do something
to at that.
He has to cause a monstrosity.
Like the Bruins take it up a notch, and then
the
Leafs feel that they have to
top way back with this
or
one,
it's anyone.
I haven't had the chance to speak on it. I'm just gonna take whatever my 1 minute. Just saying. The cross check was after by DeBrusque by himself that game. The knee-on-knee hit on Kadri, the elbow to the face on Dermott, and I'm probably missing other things where he's doing the after the whistle bullshit with Kadri in that same game. After all that, didn't get a penalty except for when they got both of them in the box on coincidental minors or whatever it was,
where Kadri did
absolutely nothing on that play after the whistle.
Yeah.
That he finally had to take the stand and say, "Fuck it, enough is enough."
No. You forgot the preceding hit, the hit against Marleau into the corner of the glass. Like it's not a penalty, but it's not a play that you do because you're a fucking dirtbag if you do it. Like you heard, like me and Bert I think we were talking about like Sean Avery dirtbag and all. It was like, do you realize who the fuck that guy is that you're hitting into the glass? That's Patrick Marleau, who's played what's his Ironman streak? The 5th most in NHL history.
Over 1,000 games. He's been there time and time before. Like there's no need. It's a senseless play. A lot of this stuff that happens after the whistle, the cheap shots, all the cross checks, everything. It's senseless hockey. And I get the whole grit and we want to be a physical team. That's their mantra. And
because you're the big
bad
because you're the big bad Bruins, you can get away with it.
I'm not for like I'm not trying to say don't go out there and don't go try and hit and don't go try and be physical, but there's after every single play I see Chara do a slash or I see him do a cross check to the back of somebody or to the leg.
The punch to Tavares, the punch to
and it
Tavares.
goes unscathed. It goes like I don't know, like I'm at a loss for words. Like it happens every single whistle. Like at what point, I keep asking, is something going to have to happen? Like, is somebody going to have to draw a ridiculous amount of blood? Like, what is it going to cost somebody on the ice?
Steve Dangle talks about this a lot, and he's like, hockey's an unfinished sport, and it'll be great when it's done. But there's no set in stone, like, the... People will shit on the NBA referees and stuff, but that's like bang,
and it's subjective at times. NHL... they like to think
you can change.
You'd like to think that they have a Stonewall here is in the rule book, letter for letter, this is what we're
Mhm.
calling it, right?
Mhm. Yep. And like, is there a reason why like they go into the
Mhm.
intermission there, and the penalty's still on? There's no reason why they shouldn't have they can't upgrade it to 5 minutes. There's like you could have. Is it
Yeah.
bullshit? Absolutely, because you'd be going back and changing. But it'd be
Are
the right
they
call.
were they not talking about challenging calls?
Being able to challenge calls, like
It opens a
I'm
whole
not
can
mad
of
at it. Like,
worms, but I
it
mean,
doesn't.
again, at what point are you trying to make the right call on the ice and keep the integrity of the
I'm
game?
fine as long as okay. So, in terms of challenging calls, I think the referees should be allowed to go look at the review at any time if they to move a call
Mhm.
from 2 to 5. But and if a coach wants to challenge for a penalty, let's say at a time, it's the same thing as challenging for a goal. You lose your timeout, you only have that one challenge, and if you get it right, you keep
Let's
your
say-
timeout and stuff. What's the problem with that? It doesn't change
What's the
it
difference
at all.
between challenging? He committed an
Yep,
infraction on
I
my
agree.
goalie. That's goaltender interference.
Yeah.
He committed the offside. His foot was off the blue line. And what's the difference of he
Mhm.
just hit my player after the whistle with a cross check that you didn't see, or he punched my player
Yeah.
in the back of the head that you didn't see? What's the difference?
Mhm. Yep.
I don't know. They're gonna take
And-
three
and it could
minutes
almost
out
be
of the time to make sure all those other calls are done right. What's the difference at this point?
Yeah. Mhm. All right, let's get off the Bruins.
They
I
cause
hate
so
them.
much stress.
Columbus. Where did they go from here? They were the belle of the ball after beating Tampa in the first round, sweeping them away. They were everyone's favorite, trading for Duchesne and Dzingel, and everyone's favorite defenseman, blanking on his name, Adam McQuaid. And now you could have Panarin, Duchesne,
Bobrovsky.
and Bobrovsky all heading out the door.
Mhm.
Dzingel as well.
Hey, I mean,
but-
this could be the end of a team that really had a really, really good shot at winning the cup this year. But I think it's
The last couple years,
Exactly,
them
yeah.
just being
I think-
competitive. Yeah.
I know it's been mentioned, but fair play and all the credit to Yarmo because he saw this opportunity and he didn't let it pass. Everybody was saying
Agree.
trade them all at the deadline, maximize the assets, but you know what? He went out there and he gave it his best. He said we're gonna put a team together, and he got the best available player at the deadline, which was Duchesne. I mean, am I missing anybody? Mark Stone. Okay,
Mark
fair.
Stone.
But he was up there. He was one of the two Ottawa guys at the time.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
So-
Yep.
And credit to Torts because going into the final stages of the season, the team wasn't gelling. It wasn't just comparing the last 10 games they played to the 4 games they played at Tampa. Polar opposites. Right? Like
Yeah. And he could be out as head
And
coach, right? I think his deal's up, and like it wouldn't be the worst thing if they're rebuilding
start
to,
fresh.
it's exactly.
Yeah.
It's not the worst idea. Credit to Yarmo because they only won one series, but they've never won a series in franchise history, and you also beat
In
the best
expansion-
team
in the franchise.
maybe to never win the cup. The best
Yeah.
team to not win a cup. That's
the
who
best
they beat.
team since
Tampa
the
Bay.
since the dynasty of Detroit back in 1996, 7,
Yeah.
8, whatever it was. I think it was the 1st year
Mhm.
they did that in 96. They matched that record. And to be able to sweep that
Yeah.
team, I mean, that doesn't come around. That's like once every 10, 20 years.
No. It was Cinderella
Exactly.
type stuff. It was Vegas of last year all in one round. Like you would turn on the TV and you see, after Tampa was up 3-0, it's like, oh, this is a wrap, it's over. And then to come back and to hold a grip on the series ever since. It was something. It was what makes the NHL playoffs so fun and so interesting because anyone can win.
It really speaks to the parity of the league. This year's rendition of the NHL playoffs.
And so, who knows? I don't know if they keep any of the guys. Because if you keep Duchesne, I think you have to give up a first round pick. I don't think that Bobrovsky is there.
If one Russian leaves, the other Russian will leave, is what I think.
Probably.
I feel they're all very tightly knit.
So here is my. What team do you think he goes to, Panarin? Because I have one that
I don't know
no
if
one's
they have
talking
the cap
about.
room, but I know he's always said he wanted to go back to a big market team. So whether the top of my mind, Chicago, New York,
the Ranger, yeah.
I don't know who else is realistic. I always heard both of them uniting in Florida as an option. But other than that, those are the only three that come to mind.
Okay. Hear me out on this one. I am worried that Panarin signs with Tampa Bay.
What?
Because him, Kucherov and Vasilevsky are close.
Yeah.
And they because of the no taxes in Florida.
Move on from Braden Point.
No, I don't think that they have to. Because you get rid of let's look at their contracts. They get rid of Callahan. That's $5 million, right?
Okay.
Kaloran, that's 4 or 3.
Who's taking these contracts? Right? Realistically,
let me pull. A team will take them.
Callahan.
Do you know that?
I don't know about Callahan.
What's up? Okay. Callahan's one more year at 5.8. You can trade Palat because Palat's still
He's
good.
A serviceable player, yeah.
It's not
top
bad.
6, I think.
Yeah, at $5 million.
Tyler Johnson.
You could move JT Miller. That's another. I think he's got a no trade.
Oh.
Yeah, he's got a no trade clause, so you can move JT Miller instead.
$5 million mark,
but
right? You need to move Miller. You need to move Palat.
Kaloran,
you need to move Callahan. One or two of those 3 guys.
I think you can move 3 guys basically, and you would clear the decks to Callahan, Palat, Kaloran, Miller. Any of those guys you can move. Maybe you trade Yanni Gourde in a trade with them to get him.
Man.
But I think it's actually a real possibility that
it's
a dark horse. But I think it's
I don't know who the new guy they have there is.
I could see it happening.
Named, but he's got Strawman, Coburn,
Julian Brisebois.
I don't think he's got the room just because logistically speaking,
the Breeze balls.
They've got no defensemen left. They got Hedman, McDonough, and Sergachev under contract. Everybody else is up.
So it could be Panarin or
I
Carlson.
think one of them could because I remember Carlson
rumors
at the deadline last year,
last summer,
whatever it was.
At the deadline last year, when the McDonough trade would happen.
Yep. Stammer at the time was a big fan of bringing him in, so I mean,
yeah. And McDonough only has a modified no trade, even though the contract
I still don't
kicks
know how
in
you
next
can afford.
year.
You're going to be paying Kucherov 9.5,
Yep.
Stammer 8.5.
Braden
Point's going to get his fair share over 8, closer to maybe 10 for all we know. And then you're going to bring on Panarin as well.
I think that he'll take. I think he's going to take a discount and a point, and we're going to all hate whatever deal he signs, and it's going to be ridiculous because we're going to compare it to Marner. But I think he's going to sign a below market deal, obviously, just because of the no tax situation.
A couple weeks ago. Do you think that it's a rush or a race to see who gets the first deal done amongst all these teams that have RFAs up at the end of the year?
I like if I'm the Leafs are rushing, but like I would kind of wait and see
We're like,
because if I'm Colorado, I'm kind of sitting pretty to where whatever Marner gets, I'll that's the range where
well, that's what
Rantanen's
I
going to get
mean.
paid, right? Maybe even less because Marner's on a higher pedestal just
And he
because of the
also
media
kills penalties. I
coverage
think
around
that's
him.
a thing that could get overlooked.
But then I would argue, well, Rantanen's
Fair.
been the better player points wise. Who else was there? But like Matthew Tkachuk, I was seeing like he could get paid. I think TSN had him at like 7.5. I'm like, fuck that. Tkachuk could make way
7?
fucking more.
Gujo's only making
like,
6 something,
yeah.
no? And he's a 100-point player.
So look at
1 point shy of.
But look at
100-point player.
But look at what Matthew Tkachuk's done in his 3 years.
I guess.
Let me pull it up. Hockey DB. So 48 points his first year, 49 points last year, and then 77 points this year.
He maybe even was a point per game. I don't even know how many
He-
games he missed.
77
Fuck.
points in 80 games. So almost. But yeah, 34 goals, 43 assists.
Fuck.
What if you I can't remember where I heard this, but let Mitch Marner go on an offer sheet and then offer sheet Matthew Tkachuk. Because of how deep the Leafs are on the right side.
How much would you be netting in assets at that point? Because you'd surrender what, 4 firsts, assuming it's over 10.
It's
And
4 first.
Let's say Tkachuk gets just shy of 8. What's the compensation they'd be giving out?
It's 4. I think it's 4 regardless. It's
No, but
a
I
certain
think
amount
the
of
4
money per
first
year.
kicks
It's weird.
in at 10 plus. So I don't know what. I think it's like 7.5 to 10 or something like that. I don't know what tier that is.
I think it's
it?
4 first
Fuck.
regardless. It's weird. Yeah, like it was the same thing with Nylander, right? To where it was gonna be 4 first round picks regardless of how many years. It was weird. It was really weird. I still don't even understand the compensation, to be honest. It's one of the weirder
I mean,
things.
I don't know how you could justify
in the
giving
sport.
him a lot more than what Monahan and Gujo are
Then-
making.
I would tell them kick rocks because, like, look, it's how the league's been going. The Leafs are getting absolutely boned because
Draisaitl.
of the
Draisaitl
newer.
started it, at least I
Yeah.
think.
Yep. It was a combination of Draisaitl and McDavid,
Fucking
right?
Peter Chiarelli.
Because McDavid moved it up for superstars, and then Draisaitl moved it up for complimentary
second player on the
all-stars like
teams.
around him. The second, yep, exactly.
Fucking Chiarelli
Yep.
ruins the league, ruins the organization,
Yep.
and then ruins the league.
And yet now that $8 million
Looks like a
for
steal.
Leon Draisaitl is good.
Sure,
Like
goal
the
scorer.
fact that that's a good deal now is crazy. Yeah. What other stuff? Oh, let's talk about the. Oh, we still have to talk about Carolina.
Ah, yes, those
Jesus.
pesky jerks.
All right. Yeah, bunch of those bunch of front running jerks. That's what they are.
And as far as I'm concerned, all the fans that are in the attendance, all the 18,000 of them are a bunch of bandwagons. They only started when the team got good.
Yeah.
I don't know. He
Good,
was adamant
yeah.
on that one of those
Well,
segments.
we're all Carolina Hurricanes fans going into.
I
do
wanna
not
see
want to see
Carolina in the
Boston in the
final.
final.
Only at the expense of knowing full well that the Bruins will lose, which is, you can't justify
Yeah.
that because you can't guarantee things into the future. But I'd want to see Bruins lose only. I'd want to see the Bruins win that series only if I get to see Joe Thornton hoisted in their face. Other than
Agreed.
that, I'm going for the Hurricanes.
100%. Yep, agreed. fuck the Islanders. Nothing else really. Okay, I
They
have
speak
nothing
for
to
themselves,
add.
really.
Yeah, like they've been Curtis
I mean,
McElhinney. What a
I
guy!
don't know
Like
if you guys
coming
brought this
in,
up or if
winning those
this
games.
happened in between, but like one of the things I looked up was like their whole log of playoff appearances, and like the Hurricanes go big or go home.
Mhm.
Like they either just don't show up in the playoffs or they're like right there in the
Yeah,
top four
yeah,
every time.
yeah. It's pretty crazy because they haven't been to the playoffs since Jordan Staal was a Hurricane.
Last
right?
time they were in the
I think
playoffs was
that was
09 when the Penguins swept them and they won the cup that year. He was still on the
but Jordan
Penguins.
Staal was on the Pens, wasn't he?
So
That's what I mean. Like,
there
so
was
since
that.
he's been on the
06 was when
Hurricanes,
they won.
haven't. Yeah.
02 they made the
Mhm.
finals, I think, against Detroit and lost. And other than that, I don't remember. But now they're into
But it's been
it's been 10
09 was
years.
the last time they played. It's been 10 years.
shit. I mean,
It's not bad.
still,
It's not bad
a
though.
new core of
Yeah.
players,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
hey, credit to them. Brendan Moore's a good
Yep.
coach, I gotta say.
Absolutely.
It's the new
Yeah.
generation of players that they have on this team with a guy who led them to the cup 13 years ago. And it's a cool story.
Which is cool. It's cool. Yeah. Let's move on to the Leafs because I
Mhm.
said so. Kyle Dubas came out this week and said that Mike Babcock is going to be back as Leafs head coach. What was your stance on
Coming out
Babcock
of Game 7
and if you'd want him back?
and going into this point,
Yeah.
I was not a big fan of him not playing
Mhm.
his star players more. Matthews at 17.
Matthews, yep,
Whatever
agreed.
it was. I don't remember how many minutes he played. It was still too
It was
little.
too little.
And he padded the stats
Yep.
right at the end of the game. He kept running Tavares and Matthews Game 7 when it was already 4-1 and there was nothing left to
Mhm.
play for. And to me, that's not
Yep.
what you should be doing, because if you want to win games, you got to play your best players consistently.
Consistently,
And
yeah.
enough of this bullshit where you split the time on the power play 50-50. If you want to win games, you got to give them the
Mhm.
extra half minute or at least 15 seconds to half minute on the power play after the minute.
I think that into that game they were
No.
going like a minute
Well,
and a half,
It's
but
gotta be
it's got to be
consistent, and
consistent.
I've watched,
Yeah.
again,
Like your
and that's
philosophy
the
has
thing,
to
it's
change
very
a little.
he's
It has to
so
adapt to
stubborn,
the modern
so
day.
stubborn. Where look at Bruce Cassidy, time and time again, every series, he's looking for different ways, he's making changes, and he's doing things to make the Bruins, top to bottom, as competitive as possible. He's moving Pasternak off the first line. He's moving guys like Danton Heinen around the lineup, and it showed. Right, like the Leafs had 2 shots to win the game. The last game they needed, and they blew it. Right, like how do you blame the players on that? Like I don't think you can. At least as far as I'm concerned.
No, I'm with you there. Like I always wanted him to stay head coach, provided that he changes, because I do think like all the Sheldon
No.
Keefe love. I don't know if like
The only thing I'll say about Sheldon Keefe is that it worked for the Penguins when they did it because they had a bunch of guys on that team. The Brian Russ, the Gensels, the Oli Matas, all of them came from that Wilkes-Barre Scranton team. He came in mid-season, and they won a cup. And the same thing happened with Bilesma
Yep.
back in 09. He came in mid-season. So I don't think making an impulsive and irrational decision right now just because, he might have cost them the series because of his stubbornness and his unwillingness to adapt and change his philosophy during mid-series. I think they got to stick with him as coach for now, but you got to keep him on a close eye. Like, he's got the pedigree.
Like it's not win around or get fired. It's yes, you have to win around, but like you have to be a legitimate
Yeah.
cup contender.
I mean, I knew that
Like
adding a guy like Jake Muzzin and adding Tavares would really alter the expectations this year and really prop things up, which I didn't really like from the media perspective, just because whatever, they're 1 or 2 years removed from their first taste of the playoffs, right?
Taste of the playoffs.
I mean, yeah, heartbreak back-to-back years now sucks in Game 7 against the same team. But, I mean, you're still going to have at least 3 good runs at it now with everybody under contract, right? Like, assuming what's the worst? They signed Marner at the expense of Gardner and one of Janssen or Kapanen.
You're Kapanen. I don't see, like... So, yes, would it suck to trade Kapanen, but you look at the depth that the Leafs have on their right side. Like, there's too many guys.
That with a Marlies team that perennially competes for the Calder Cup, you can't find forwards down that lineup like the Trevor Moores of the world who came in.
Trevor Moore scored 2 last night.
Unreal hockey, the best hockey I've seen out of the bottom 3 or the bottom 2 lines in those games against Boston.
Yep.
Right? So
Agreed.
They're there. It's just a matter of moving on from guys. It's just like the Blackhawks, how they used to have the same 5 guys, and they'd move on from the Andrew Ladds, the Christopher Steegs, the Bufflins, and they'd go on and find guys through the system and on whatever league minimum deals and field a team that was competitive, and they'd be able to compete and win.
Yeah, like the guys, like... It's if Kapanen could play left wing, keep him, but he can't. Like, so I think he's the surplus to where you can trade for a defenseman. Janssen, I mean, I think he's only here for the next maybe 1 or 2 years, and then he's gone. Like, it's going to be a revolving door around, and we'll see what happens with Nylander.
Well,
like, who knows?
It's a matter of, and I trust Dubas with this a lot. It's just drafting good players, depth players in the later rounds, and I think Dubas and his analytics-based approach is just good at being able to do that. And I think moving forward, it's gonna suck from a fan's perspective, seeing all these guys that we've seen do well alongside Matthews and alongside the top 2 lines,
and seeing them go.
But, I mean, business is business.
It's like the Jordan Stalls with Pittsburgh. Yeah, you can't keep the band together like as much. Like, there's going to be a day where Nazem Kadri's not in the Leafs. It sucks, yes, but now I don't think that he's a guy that you should move, but because you just can't draft centers for shit. But you know, the signing of like Ilya Mikheyev, like he's gonna apparently he's gonna play on the Leafs next year.
At least I think. I don't know how young he is relative
to
Ozhiganov, but.
He's 24. But the thing is, I know the KHL is messed up, but he was, I think, 4th in goals scored in the league. So, yeah. And he's a big boy apparently, so
that's okay.
Left, but I think he plays the right wing, but I'm sure they'll put him on the left.
If you're saying,
is he better than Patrick Marleau?
Well,
probably.
You're going to have what? Assuming you could get Hainsey back on a cheap deal, which I want him.
I don't want him, but
the best
sure.
defenseman on the Leafs, in my opinion, defensively speaking. I'm not going to take anything away from Morgan Riley, but defensively speaking, I'd want a guy like Hainsey come playoff time.
The thing was, the Leafs weren't even bad. Like, the defense wasn't the spot that they were really hurting. Like, I thought Muzzin Zaitsev was awesome.
There were nights when Zaitsev...
Like, he could make one bad play, but he was making more good plays than bad plays.
There was one game where they were a -3 or whatever, but for the most part, they were really good.
Yeah.
And...
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have what? Going into next season, who will they have?
Like, game 3 against Boston might have been the best game I've seen Zaitsev play. He was sick. I was like shouting him out every time he made a play. It was nuts. But like, do you look to move him? Sure, just because of the cap number. But he's not the guy that like he's not the reason your team is gonna lose. Like he's not an albatross towards the team. You like the Patrick Marleau just for the sheer amount of money he makes. That's a deal that you have to move.
Keep a guy like him, and especially in a bottom 6 role.
And then Connor Brown,
Brown.
Connor Brown is an amazing fourth liner, but he can't you can't justify paying $2 million. It's the same thing with Matt Martin last year. He's great for what he does, but you can't justify paying him $2 million. So the Trevor Moore, I think, is going to be good on the Leafs next year.
But I think he brings
it's going to be interesting to see where he plays.
Possible version of Freddie Gauthier too. I think pairing them together.
And Gauthier was fine. Like Gauthier was fine.
He doesn't use his body, but I mean, I think he did a good job of it.
Can he skate? No, but
it's
a fourth liner. Like what?
Definitely more than
they were creating pressure. Like it was there. I would argue that the fourth line was the most consistent line throughout the fucking
and I don't
playoffs.
blame Babcock for using them as much as he did. But when push came to shove and you needed goals, you should have been playing Matthews more.
Agreed, but in terms of
second best line
when they were on the ice,
it
was just consistent. It was consistent ozone pressure for the first 3 games. It might have been the Marner line that was best, but the second best line was the fourth line, and then from game 4 through 7, the best line was the Matthews line. But then it was the fourth line was still there.
They were a constant threat. They outmatched. I mean, when Corrali came back into the lineup, it was a little bit different, but for the most part, that fourth line was eating them alive. And, I mean, play him, give them minutes, but, I mean, like you were saying before, it's going to be hard to see some of these guys move on, but, I mean, that's what good teams are going to have to do. When the time comes, you got to be able to pull the trigger on a player. And, I mean, Patrick Marleau's been a great help, and he's been a great influence on guys like Marner and Matthews the past couple of years. But, like you said, at $6 million, can't afford to have him.
No. Like, and if the Leafs, like, they could absolutely package Janssen and Kapanen for a defenseman. Like, for a real, like, for a top 4 defenseman. Why wouldn't a team do that? Like, the Leafs have they can... From a prospect perspective, like they can fill guys into their lineup. Because if you realize Makhayev's going to play in the Leafs next year in like a fourth line or third line role, that's a spot filled for a year. And then you got Trevor Moore, who's going to play above the fourth line next year. Jeremy Bracco is going to be on the Leafs next year. There's guys in this. Pierre Engvall could play on the Leafs next year. There's guys that are waiting in the wings, literally.
Right? They're next in line.
Yeah. No one on center, but you know.
I mean, even a guy like Nick Petan was playing good hockey when they had him playing. It was a very, 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 very small sample size, but
small sample size. When he was playing. Yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see what the Leafs do with their defense next year. And how the lines go. Like, where is Sandin? Is Sandin going to come up next year? Is Liljegren going to come up next year?
I think Liljegren will.
Where do they slot? Like, how what are you predicting? Like for the Leafs D next year?
Up who's going to be there on the
lines?
I don't know.
Like for the defense, the pairing.
Muzzin and Zaitsev continues.
I think Muzzin Zaitsev is
together.
Yeah. Yeah. Who's Riley with? I think you look for a guy to pair with Riley this summer.
And then you put Dermott with
I think that's the biggest key.
Whatever you said his name was.
No, that's he's a winger. Yeah,
so,
left wing
I don't know,
or right
wing.
Liljegren
and Dermott, that's a very young defense line, but I mean Liljegren is a right hander
as a third pairing, that's fine. Right.
I wouldn't mind seeing that for a little while, seeing how that works. And then And then at the end of next year, or if a D-man gets hurt, then you can move up Sandin to play on the left side, and we'll see from there.
Let's talk about other NHL news. Ken Holland hired by the Edmonton Oilers to be their new GM after Steve Yzerman cucked him and took over for Detroit as their GM.
Bye.
How do you think? Is this a good move for Edmonton? I think so. Like,
I don't know. I mean, yeah, anything's better than Peter Chiarelli.
anything's better. Yeah.
I mean, from
yeah.
a problem management standpoint, it's gonna take time to fix this mess because you've got guys like Lucic under contract and among others. Damn, I closed the tab.
Sekera
open and ready because I saw it. We had it up.
So yesterday that Kyprios was suggesting that they'll buy out both Lucic and Sekera. Yeah. So that's like $10 million alone just paid out like a year.
I mean, they've got good young players too, like Kyler Yamamoto,
Ethan Bear, Evan Bouchard, Puljujarvi.
It's
like,
a shame what's happened to Puljujarvi,
but it's not going to be next year. Oh, I know. It's not going to be next year that they're going to be better. I think it's a mistake if you do that. Like, get more good young guys. I don't see the problem with that, and let your young guys, don't bring them up too early. Don't stunt their growth. Let them grow in the AHL if they have to, in junior if they have to. Like,
the parting gift that Chiarelli left them was that 4.5 contract. Because the first thing Ken Holland just said, I saw it before on the score, is that we're going to be looking for a goalie.
Yeah, the Mikko Koskinen contract.
That's brutal.
That is. So in terms of free agent goalies, who is there? Mrazek. Yeah, Mrazek. Can't think of anyone else.
Are they really gonna go do that again? Probably not.
No. I would think not.
Ken Holland sees something in Cam Talbot that Chiarelli didn't. I doubt it actually happens, but
because no, obviously.
Let me see.
What is the? So I was listening to 31 Thoughts the other day, the podcast, and Jeff Merrick said they were talking about how the possible Evgeny Malkin rumors, they're back in the news, and this isn't the first time that it's happened, but this time it seems real. And they brought up the Nashville Predators as a fit for Evgeny Malkin. And then they suggested, could PK Subban be going back to Pittsburgh? And if that happens, I think that we all might become Penguins fans in that case. But you would think it would be PK plus for Malkin, right?
At what? He's 1986. He's going to be 33 years old for a guy who's probably turning 30 this year, Subban. Yeah, you're going to be looking at a little bit more on the Penguins' end, trying to get Subban over. So I heard about this too. My boss was telling me about it because he's like, yeah, I don't know if I really want to invest in Malkin just because I've heard rumors. I'm like, wow, this is news. So I heard that yesterday or the other day, and I think it is real. And they were talking about it time and time before, but it was Kessel before. It was Kessel going to reunite with Tocchet, and everybody brushed that off.
Yeah,
it's like, whatever. But every year it seems to be something, and eventually you'd have to think that the core would have to shake because they're getting into their 30s. It's only a matter of time before this team, needs to enter a rebuild. And you don't want to waste the prime years of guys like Sid or Malkin. Or, retool.
At least a retool.
But, I mean, Subban's going to cost a lot. And I'm just trying to pull up the Predators thing here.
Hold on.
Yeah,
you would think it'd be Malkin plus for Subban? I think it would be. I thought it'd be PK plus for Malkin.
No, not really.
You don't think so? So you would be if it was 1-for-1.
Yeah.
You think Pittsburgh would do it? What? After
Well, you're
PK had a
buying low.
down year. But you're buying low on Malkin also.
But who's got a higher ceiling? Who's got a
Like,
higher ceiling 3 years from now?
How old's Malkin? 33?
I'm
you
pretty
said?
sure he's 1986, which is 32, turning 33.
And PK is
I believe he's 1989,
29.
which is
So he's
turning 30
32.
this year.
He's turning 30. So I was talking to Brant, and he said that he thinks that it's the other way, that it's plus 4 PK, like
Malkin
that it's
for
Malkin.
Subban
It's
plus?
Malkin for Subban plus.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know. But
Yeah, I would.
why? What do you think on it?
Okay, so let's look at it. Last year, Malkin was at 98. He scored 98 points last year. Not this past year, but the year before.
18.
He scored he scored 72 this year in a down year where he played in 68 games. I think it's Subban plus, even for his age. It's not like ridiculous the age gap, but it's 3 years. Because looking at, I'm trying to see what Malkin's contract is. It's 9.5 for the next 3 years. And I think Subban's also at 9.9 something, right?
Subban is at, I have it here, 9 million straight up until 2022. 2023 season.
Mm. I mean, it's a possibility, but Subban's not a great defenseman. He's an offensive defenseman. Like, can you have... I guess Letang is good at defense, but he's also like
They've been so weak on the back end, though, that this kind of deal helps them just from the depth standpoint.
But then who the fuck is your second line center? Because Mulligan, when he's healthy, is not a second line center. He could be a first line center on basically every team in the league.
I don't know. They've moved on from Brassard. Nick Bjugstad. That's a stretch because he's the only guy on the roster I know that's there. And yes,
a center. Yeah,
that's gonna be rough.
Yeah, it's an interesting rumor that is around, but
it would be fun to see.
It'd be fun
every time
to
you
see that
a
deal done.
one-for-one
Absolutely,
trade like that. It brings it back to the summer of a couple years ago, where it was Hall for Larson and Subban for Weber, where you didn't see many of those straight up deals.
But then if you're the Preds, you're absolutely fucked with your cap. Because you have Turris at 8x8, and you have Johansson at what, 8.5?
8, I think.
Something high like that. Like, yeah, that's a lot. That's almost $30 million. It's like 26, I guess, at your three center spots, if you're Nashville. That's a lot of dough. You still have to pay Roman Josi.
$4 million right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I think that PK gets moved. People were also saying Vancouver.
PK.
For PK. PK.
Vancouver's in too big of a rebuild, no? Or they're such a young team.
No, because so what Friedman was saying was that if Pierre-Luc Dubois was available at the 5th pick where Vancouver took Olli Juolevi, that it would have been the 5th pick for Subban, so that Montreal could get Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's I think PK is probably moved this summer. Kessel, I think, is gone.
Kessel or Malkin's going out of Pittsburgh just because
Malkin.
they've got so much cap tied into those three guys that for the money you're paying them, you're not able to put guys around them and allow the team to succeed. Right, like the depth on defense just sucked this year, and they got eaten alive.
Yeah, because Mata has no trade value because he's making $4 million. He's not good. Dumoulin's making too much money for the player that he is. Letang's good. And I don't understand why they would trade Letang. Please tell me why they would entertain trading him.
Here this year, I mean, it wouldn't make sense to trade him.
But he wasn't great in the playoffs,
can't really
right?
Tell who was good in the playoffs.
But no one was. Fucking Crosby wasn't.
They lost every single game.
Yeah.
Nobody played well.
4 games. Yep. Is there any other storylines in the NHL?
I'm gonna have a
Anything,
look.
Mauro?
I think we've covered everything.
Yeah, covered a lot.
We could talk about.
You want to talk about your
soccer quick? This has been
your
fucking
beloved
unreal news out of the past couple of days because both teams that went into today's legs of the Champions League blew it, and you can say that they blew it, or the teams that won today and yesterday pulled off the improbable, the Cinderella story comebacks that nobody had ever expected. So going into yesterday's game, Barca had the 3-0 lead. Going back to Anfield in Liverpool, and I believe it was on the weekend that Mo Salah, the winger on the team, went out. I believe it was his leg this time around.
My boy.
And they said right away on the weekend that he was going to be missing the second leg. So all signs pointed to Liverpool. Their run was over.
Yeah.
Right? And it was Jorginho Wijnaldum, the Dutch guy, out of I think it was within the span of 2 minutes, right after halftime, he leveled the aggregate. So it was 3-0, and that offset the 3-0 of the first leg. And then Divock Origi came in and scored. What was the winner in the 79th minute, 10 minutes to go. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And everybody's looking at Messi and saying, what the fuck happened?
So when it was tied, like, would it be, if it was tied, what would it be determined at? Like,
away goals,
away goals or what?
Because they both have 0 away goals and they both had 3.
Both,
so
okay, because, okay, yeah.
30 minutes extra time and then penalty
Okay,
kicks.
and then just,
Yep.
Oh, fuck off. There's
stressful.
Nothing more I hate than penalty kicks.
I mean,
yep.
The coach, Jurgen Klopp, considering the situation he was in, he pulled off a miracle because there was no business for them winning this game.
None.
Like, Salah, their best player, out. Against a team that really was the favorite to win it amongst the last 4 teams remaining. And the best player in the world, arguably, to most, Messi, didn't bother to show up. Everybody's blaming him for this loss, saying, hey, where's he when push comes to shove?
This would be like LeBron losing to Golden State, except
Basically.
LeBron didn't play. Yeah, right?
So that was yesterday's leg. So Liverpool's going to be in the final June 1st. They'd go on to face the winner of today's matchup, Ajax, the team who bounced my team, Juve, in the last round and made us look like fools.
Oh, where's your boy now?
On the beach, having margaritas or some alcohol beverage of the sort. They were up against Tottenham, and going into this one, Ajax had the 1-0 lead. they had the away goal going into the leg, so they were a +1, and they were the heavy favorites going into today, just because they were at home, and it showed because they dominated the first half, scoring 2 goals. So they were winning the leg 3-0 at halftime. And then halftime comes around, and then again, in the span of 4 minutes, they score 2 goals. And this has been the story of all the soccer
That's
matchups
insane.
this week, where really rapid succession that they're getting these goals and they're right back in it. And then it was kind of last gasp winner, where they do added time in soccer, where they account for all the injuries, all the flops, if you want to call it, the substitutions. So it was like 5 minutes into added time, which was like right up against what the referee had gave them. So they gave him 5 minutes
against
time,
it.
and he got the hat trick in the last minute. And my cousin texted me right as it happened. He's like, "That's 5 minutes after, or 5 seconds after the full 5 was up." And
after the 5 minutes.
I get it if you're gonna allow an attacking play to finish. Yeah, like you're not gonna
to keep it going.
kill somebody's attack if they're outside the box. Exactly.
Like it's the same thing in the NHL. It's the same thing in the NHL. Yeah.
I'm pretty pissed because they pulled it off. Because now we have to watch an all-English final, and there's nothing I hate more than seeing British soccer succeed. And have to hear about how great English soccer is for a full year, saying how it's the trophies come home. So I mean, that's been this week in soccer.
So Steve Nash was apparently there or something, because he's a big Tottenham fan.
I know he's big on soccer.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I honestly thought Ajax would have pulled it off, having beat 2 of the 3 favorites in Madrid and Juventus, and especially because a lot of these kids are like my age and your age, like 22, 21 years old, 23. At least 8 of them are under 25, and you could see like they were heartbroken as it happened, because this team was like, they were unfathomable, if that's the right word. I mean, you can't, like, imagine having the 3-goal lead. You're the 19-year-old captain on the team, scoring the first goal. You're a center back. You have no business scoring. And I don't know, that's devastating, because I was really pulling for them after they beat my team.
It's their version of the 4-1 Leafs.
And a lot of these kids are young, and they're going to be moving on to the Barcelonas of the world, because they don't stay on this team for long, because the money's there.
They can't. Yeah. Can't afford them.
That.
Yeah.
I'm upset, but June 1st, it's going to be an all-English final, which I'll probably tune into, even though I don't want to watch it. Oh, well.
Yeah. Sure. Go Liverpool. Let's go, Mo. Let's go, Mo. So Bleacher Report put out something where it's like Tottenham had Steve Nash in tears over the comeback and stuff. That was cool. But yeah,
what are we at?
Packed a lot into this episode. Going over an hour and a half with just 2 guys. All right, well, this has been episode 19, even though I already have an episode 19. But
19B.
19.5. I don't know. We'll see.
Eiserman.
All right. Anyways, so this, okay, Steve,
fine.
Jose Batista, suck a dick. Let's go. This has been the A Sports Podcast. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.